And welcome everybody to Globebusters Flat Earth Endgame. I am your host, Bob Xanadude60, and we are back with another great show for you today.
Same date that it changes in different countries.
Yeah, weird. Okay, I'll message you. That's probably what's going on.
Yep. No, we pretty much have kept the same hours for the last 4 years, every Sunday at noon Pacific, and whatever the time change goes with that, that's cool. All right, so let's introduce our very esteemed guests. These two gentlemen have been on Globebusters one time before, and they are definitely some of my favorite content producers out there. Steve and Ross have come forward with several really good series. I particularly love the NASA fanboy questions that you guys do. That's one of my favorite series for sure. And recently, you have been doing the Comets Cataclysms series, which just finally culminated in Part 6C, which was absolutely fabulous. Talking about Earth cycles and natural disasters and reset events and stuff like that. And again, it's not done in the spirit of fear mongering. This is simply taking documented facts and historical things and kind of shining a little bit of a light on it. But most recently,
it's not. They're not flying around with planes full of chemicals in big vats and whatever. That's not how they do it. It's a part of it. It's a part of it that we didn't really go into that in the film because they are manipulating. Iro, you will like this because we mentioned in our last movie on the Comets Part 6C that the comets that are the meteors or whatever that come down, they look like a sparkler when they ignite, and the ionization hits its release charge. And one of our subscribers came on the comment section. He said, "Do you know what a sparkler is made out of? It's aluminum, barium, and strontium, which are in chemtrails."
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought, oh my God, So I'm kind of wondering. Chemtrail, you can talk about that for 10 hours, but I'm wondering if the reason for all that is actually this, if it's some way to stop us seeing all these charges or to accelerate them or, because now we're seeing lightning striking from ground up as we showed in the film. And there's weird stuff going on in the atmosphere and the nitrogen might be changing. And I'm not really sure. They are definitely controlling the weather. The question is why?
Yeah, with the spraying, they're spraying this layer over it. And as you've probably all noticed that we've had a lot of low cloud cover recently. And that means you can't see what's going up in the sky. And if you want to go biblical, they say, we will see signs in the sky. Yeah. They're covering all of that up, but they're also covering up the sun. Now, if the sun is going into the grand solar minimum now, it's pushing out a lot of ultraviolet light. And it's a possibility that they're putting up this barrier up there to stop the ultraviolet light. That's just one.
What do you guys think? What's your take on all of the chemtrails?
Can I share my screen, Bob, a little bit?
Oh, certainly, Iro. And
just for the
go ahead and do that. And honestly, let me give you my take on why I think they're doing that and why I think it is because this is just promoting their agenda with the weird weather changes, and they're trying to tie this climate change into the weather changes. So they are manipulating the weather. They're saying again it's because of our CO2 and the humans that are causing this to happen. So I think that's the reason why, or a big part of it. And you are sharing and presenting, Iro. Go for it.
Okay. No. I just want to share here with with us, of course, with the public out there also. But when I prepare my conference for Madrid, I related the man-made comet, an asteroid, quote unquote asteroid, with the Blue Beam project, because for me it's like a super giant soup, in terms of what they are doing in our real life, but also I am not forget that they have like multiple agendas. So when I was looking and researching for complete my conference, I came across with all this old news, and I have a ton of this, which there are official news that saying that from the 60s, 50s, 70s. All the time NASA was playing with barium vapor to glow up in the atmosphere at 100 kilometers to detect the magnetic Earth field, trying to make like a pattern in the sky and see. And they extend all this glowing until 1,000 kilometers up in the sky, and they can see from Alaska to I don't know which the city itself that they are reporting, but you have all these from the 50s, for example, with lithium, barium, and free metal aluminum, creating what we call comets. And of course, I believe that nature has its own method to produce this. For me, the comets or asteroids are just electrical discharge from the sky, and in fact, it's a very well-known the phenomena called globular lightings, which are spherical balls of electricity that moves between 5 seconds to 30 seconds in the sky, sometimes in a straight path, in a horizontal way, left to right, for example, things like that, and make a big explosion when the discharge ends, create a really big sound in the sky, and you can still you can smell like rotten eggs, type of exactly. And then you have this kind, for example, this is NASA creating with lithium this kind of artificial what is called this is all with sounding rocket, of course, right? But I mean, when we see this kind of things in the sky, how can you determine that it's not another experiment, for example? I mean, you have all these and this is official, this is official records. This is, for example, Geographical Institute study the aurora, blah blah blah, with rockets shoot designed to test the influence of. All the time they are at least in this kind of report, they trying to access to the electrical field of our magnetic plane, because these guys know that we live in under a toroid energetic field. So they are trying to see how much extends the Aurora Borealis is kind of natural way to see those magnetic fields, but they are playing in another part of the world and doing all these kind of experiments. I just want to share this with
that's brilliant. Because you're really good at these comments. Have you ever seen the European Space Agency had a space freighter, they call it. You can pull it up on YouTube, called Jules Verne, the guy who wrote 60 Leagues Under the Sea?
Of course.
Do you remember this?
No,
pull up the footage for the re-entry. So NASA, whoever was filming it, they claim they filmed the footage of the space freighter Jules Verne coming back into the atmosphere and burning up. Watch this and tell me this is not a comet breaking up. If you can pull it up on YouTube.
Right. Let me just 1 second. For example, this is a really good example, because this is a typical comet that we see entering our atmosphere, but these comets start turning to the left. It's following some kind of electrical, path or something like that. So these kind of things, there are not so much news are reporting this. This is just homemade videos. This particular case is in Venezuela, and this is our globular lightings. There are electrical lighting, for example, that goes up. If you see in the movie, is related to the family of the sprites, but all these are just electrical discharge in the sky. I mean, it has, of course, the same behavior, because it produces sound, a really, really heavy sound, really big sound, and also have this smell. And of course, because produce sound, the wave can break glass or things like that, because of course it's a sound. When you with sound you can break things too. So if the explosion is very big, it's going to travel along the air and could break things, and then the news reporter is going to come with the typical story behind that, the meteorite impact, but nobody see those impact on the ground. Nobody found those rocks, and for me, it's everything is electrical without any doubt.
Yep, but there's one hell of a sonic boom behind it, though. That's for sure.
Sometimes. Well, if you can find it on YouTube, look at the re-entry for the European Space Agency. Jules Verne, isn't that his name? Voyage to Center Earth and Journey.
Yeah.
So
what we
think NASA is doing, just to get a little off subject, but you remember when what was it? A Skylab, was that what it's called?
Yeah, Skylab.
Yeah,
Remember when Skylab crashed and then this thing coming in? I think they're slowing down footage of comets and then claiming these are the space shuttle. What was the one that?
Columbia's.
Is that the one they said burned up on re-entry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Columbia.
Because it's the same type of light, of color, of behavior. It's the same thing. It's not different enough. It's the same thing.
So when you guys know the hoax they're running, so you've got this fake space shuttle up there and you need to explain it away, and then you get footage of one of these comets or meteors coming down. You just say, that's them coming in, and they burn up. But the same thing happens is what you're talking about here. It ends in a big flash and a little, I think they're just slowing down footage of these and claiming that's their stuff coming back in.
They could also be shooting down just weapons that do that, missiles or whatever.
Yep. It's interesting.
Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting you mentioned the electricity and the moon, because I had this article pulled up. The moon is electric, especially when it's full, and it goes into this electric shell that's around the moon. And of course, most people, unless they've been following the Electric Universe, or if they've been following the Electric Universe or Thunderbolts project, NASA has always disavowed that there's any major electrical influence that's controlling anything out in the cosmos. They say it's all gravitational. And it's clearly electrical, and now they're starting to leak this stuff into the narrative, talking about
electric shell.
Yeah, electric shell of the moon. So Steve, what was the name of the video you wanted me to look up on YouTube? Whoops, Steve, you there?
It was something about ESA, Jules Verne.
Jules Verne, freighter coming back, or re-entry, Jules Verne's ESA.
Put re-entry ESA.
Yeah, what happened to Stephen Ross?
The predicted program of YouTube do the rest. There you have it.
Okay, dramatic Jules Verne re-entry video. Okay, well, let's...
Dramatic,
I guess this is it. So let's see what that's about. And Stephen Ross, I don't know what happened. We lost you guys. Where are you?
They're muted. It seems like it.
Are they muted?
Yeah, sorry, we're muted. Yeah.
Okay. Boy, we're getting worried about you there. We thought they came and got you.
So imagine you slow down, comet footage or meteor footage, so-called. To me, this looks just like it.
Yeah, but it's official. The reports in military industry that they produce these big metal balls and they drop in the sky and make experiments. Then you have the artificial meteoroid that you have the company called Stellano. There is a Japanese company that produce these kind of things too in an artificial way. So. Could be, like you said, could be.
Are you talking about these big balls that people keep finding in fields and stuff?
Yes,
these metal balls. Like big fireworks, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And the Russians, the United States, are using that in military training. Then you have the company called Star Ale, which is a Japanese company that produce meteor shower, fireworks and things like that in the sky, and that is official. You can enter into the webpage. It's about $10,000 an app for this event, and they sell this kind of event to a really huge and big shows, like super recitals and tours of music, things like that. But if that was the case in terms of the Skylab or some kind of re-entry machine, we have been seeing a lot of this. And, there are only see from particular moment and event that they produce to brainwash people. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And as Jaron said in his speech, what was it, 400 billion a year industry, was it?
Yeah, space industry, 400 billion.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. So 50 million a day for cartoons.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
60 million now.
How much bigger is it, Jaron, than the other industries combined, all the other entertainment industries?
It's just bigger, but it's pretty close. I mean, if you take all the industries, talking about music, talking about Hollywood, talking about video game industry, I think all that combines around 350. So still, space industry is more than all of them combined, which is insane to think about. Even if you think about the music industry and everything that goes, and that's all of online purchasing, that's all of iTunes, that's every album released. And if you look at all movies, that's Hollywood, that's box office, that's home entertainment, that's all across the earth. So that's crazy to even think that the space industry is worth so much more.
But the nice thing is that for our safety, you cannot worry. You don't must be worried, because all the pieces always disintegrate in the atmosphere, never fall to the ground. So
lucky.
Yeah,
they drop those balloons that fall sometimes, and it wasn't in Argentina that they dropped some stuff like engines and. Because sometimes they pop in the news that something fell off the sky and it's a
yeah, but there are those giant balls. They are not like sometimes you can find like the fuel tank, but that is from the rocket. That doesn't come from outside and enter in our atmosphere. And in fact, this kind of shows or this kind of light, you cannot determine the size or the distance, because you have the black background of the sky, and you don't have any kind of reference to compare how big is this, what it is exactly.
What is this thing?
Why is going to have? But the thing is, if you go to the website Star Ale company, they use this fluoroluminescence technology to produce all these colors. You can use barium, lithium, and all kind of. There are like 7 colors in the sky that produce this blue, green, red, yellow, violet color. So why the Skylab, when it's entering our atmosphere, is produced that green color exactly as the entertainment of comets do. I mean.
Yeah, so they can just use the gas that they want to produce the effect that they want in the time they want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a report of a big blue one over Phoenix, I think, a few days ago, and it was bright blue.
It's all kinds of stuff. Okay.
That's common. Yeah,
salad. Well, one thing I was going to mention to you guys is Jules Verne.
Star Ale, Bob, if you want to. Star Ale.
I on YouTube?
No, just in Google, because Star Ale.
Star Ale.
Yeah. And put Comet or that one, the first one, Shooting Star on Demand. It's like Netflix of the. Don't play the video if you have someone there. But if you start scrolling down, they are, that's the color that we see in the sky. And they show you all the technique behind to produce this kind of artificial, going down a little more, and you're gonna see the watch the video. There you have all the things behind this. But if you go ground observation, and I mean, they produce these things, on demand for public entertainment. So if you are a military industry, or you are the government, and you don't think that they are really have this in big scale for his own entertainment.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Of course.
For
So
Blue Beam,
Unbelievable.
of course.
unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, and in the video, it's all the showroom that how they produce, and if you play it, you cannot use the sound. That's the only restriction.
Can't use
It's
the
amazing
sound.
how all this stuff is just out in the open, like with the Argos as well, right? It's right in your face.
It's right in your face, yes. And they say this. The funny thing is that if you go in a little more, that one, for example, they say that they put like this tiny cube satellite shooting the spheres in the sky. They always need, put in your head that they are using satellite and things like that. That's the funny part. I mean, they put this satellite shooting meteor in the sky. What the?
It's one of the cube ones.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
But again, this is just a regular company. I mean, you can imagine what they have behind the doors,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna mention as well, like since you guys mentioned Jules Verne, and the name came up, of course, in 1969. There's a film with Werner von Braun talking about going to the moon. Right in '69, something produced like it's like 1 hour and a half, and the first quotes and all the quotes in that film come from Jules Verne, and he talks about how the actual capsule was modeled after Jules Verne's capsule, and he compares the moon capsule to Jules Verne's capsule. And one thing that's odd as well is that in the Back to the Future, you have Doc Brown, and he explains that he changed the name. The family changed the name from Von Braun, right? So he becomes Doc Brown. So they run a mesh that runs through fiction, and their kind of docu-fiction thing that people believe is real, and tie them up from all sides into the narrative.
Wait, you're saying in Back to the Future they actually said that his name was Von Braun?
Yeah, I think it's Back to the Future 2. One or two. Yeah. He explains. Oh, our family name used to be Von Braun, and we changed to Braun when we moved from Germany. I think he says.
Oh God!
Isn't that exactly the same as the British royal family?
Yeah, they're German too. Yeah,
they keep changing their name.
Well, here's an interesting thing too. I don't want to get too off topic, but it is these controllers. What happened in the States is they used to have the Rockefeller Foundation. They make these foundations which still run our world today. The governments are run by these think tanks and corporations and NGOs. But they took over the literary societies, right? So all H.G. Wells and all these science fiction writers, they were in with this crowd. So the stuff they were writing about, people say, oh, they write science fiction and then inventors get the idea from Star Trek and then now we have a flip phone. That's not how it worked. They actually controlled the literary societies so they could control what books were coming out. And just like as we talked about earlier, with Dean Koontz and this Wuhan 400, they tell these authors, they don't tell them what to write the book about, but they say, put this in there, put that. We need this idea. This is all part of the programming.
It's predictive programming.
We are totally controlled and micromanaged and have been since easily the late 1800s, early 1900s. So this is how they work through literary societies. And if you aren't in their crowd, your book doesn't come out. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So Jules Verne, he definitely was in that clique and made to say all this stuff. And it's a weird. Why would you name a spaceship after Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
It's the same. What was the guy that invented satellites? Arthur C. Clarke. Same thing.
Same stuff. Well, he's in the clique too.
They know about this. They've known about this, and they also know exactly how this world works. This is what we're all trying to find out now. We're talking about electromagnetism and everything. What you got to remember is these guys, they know how it works. They know exactly how it works, and they've been utilizing it for years.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. decades they've been utilizing it.
Didn't they use Space Force? Didn't they use the Star Trek logo for Trump's Space Force?
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, good God, man, come on.
Just as a example of how they know what's going to happen and they know about this technology is the electricity pylons all over the world. You know these, they stretch for miles. There's thousands of miles of them.
The high power tension lines, the metal structures they're sitting on.
Yeah. We've always been taught that is getting electricity from one place to another, a town or a village and whatever. It's not. It's harvesting the energy from the air.
And I've heard that theory before, and it's an interesting one, and it wouldn't surprise me. And it's harvesting it via induction into those wires.
Exactly, and this is what I mean. When I was a kid, we used to call it the national grid. That is exactly what it is. It's a grid network of these pylons all over the country that are harvesting the power, and that's what they're using. When the population got bigger and we needed more power, that's when we had to start nuclear and coal powered and water hydro powered. Years ago, the national grid was all we needed.
Yeah, and you're right. It would be underground. You wouldn't lay cables. Why would you even do that?
Exactly. If you look at these things, the way they're built, they are massive. It's so much easier to put a cable under the ground these days.
And they dead end in some power station in the middle of nowhere and do
exactly.
Some
of these things, if you go on Google Earth, right, and find a power line, and then you follow it. Some of these power lines, they go out into the countryside for miles, and then they come back right to the place they started, into a ground unit. Yeah,
a grounded wire.
Yeah, this is what's happening. So these guys know how this world works. They've been using this free energy for years, for decades. Another interesting thing, if you were to pull up the plans of the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, and there was all this talk about the insulation. What was it? Asbestos, yeah.
Right.
You pull up the plans, and you see the cutaway section of these two buildings. It looks just like a capacitor. That insulation only goes up to the 35th floor on one of the buildings. The other one is the one with the big aerial on the top. They've been harvesting this energy for years and years and years.
Yeah, and I have no doubt.
Well, it gets interesting because, it seems like in these grand solar minimums, it ramps up. We get more electrically charged, obviously, which is why we start seeing, in part 2 of our first film, they were seeing Aurora Borealis down in Connecticut in England. And, there's no reason to see that. We're told the Borealis is there because of the magnetic pole in the North Pole. But then what the hell would it be doing down in England? Do you know what I mean? So, people were wearing those lightning chains and going out to the park with lightning, which we put in the film. You don't go to the park on a sunny day and then have a lightning rod. You don't get struck by lightning on a sunny day. So I think the charges start changing, maybe because the sunspots are gone. I don't know, but it seems to me during these periods, the reason everything kicks off is, we live in an electric closed circuit with pressure, and the atmosphere changes, and now lightning striking down up. We were just talking about the Rapture today, actually, because we saw, what was the video we saw where the guy
Good Times for All is put out a little video with a Van de Graaff generator. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, it was made in my kitchen.
Good
Times for All is actually, he's staying here with us. It was Level Earth Observer put it out this morning.
That's it, yeah. Now you look at that video there, and immediately we both looked at it and we thought Rapture.
Yeah, because if like Brian Austin Lambert's right and the charge reverses, then you get sucked up. If the negative goes up, I don't think everything, but if it was stronger than the ground charge,
it changes that bias. It would change the bias. And that's something I've been saying for a long time. It's like, look, if we are truly living in the flat earth model where we have a firmament or something above us that carries a charge potential, which I think there is a huge amount of evidence for that, in a myriad of ways, then what would happen if we changed the charge potential of that? Well, you could have something like what you were just talking about there, the Rapture, things floating up, or dramatic plasma excitations and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. But yeah, if we are living in a construct where the Earth ground is one side of a capacitor and the firmament is the other side, then of course it makes sense. Then we would have this field, the static charge field, 100 volts per meter, going all the way up as far as we can measure. That's exactly what would be happening inside of a capacitor.
Yeah, my problem with the Rapture thing on that model is there are still billions. Don't tell me the elephants and rhinos and all that shit grabbed onto a tree and held tight.
Well, there's
too
that.
many species around.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Don't tell me there's too many species around that everything got sucked up in the sky. No way. But there could be some things, like smaller things or something else like that. But then also you have vertical winds. If you have if your hurricane turns into an ionic plasma super tornado, well, that'll suck your ass up in the sky too, as well. Mm-hmm. One thing I can say, if you're a Christian and you're looking forward to the rapture, you might want to think again. You do not want to get up there because it's true.
A long way down.
You will definitely be with Jesus sooner than later, probably when you fall back down. So,
One thing I was going to mention is that there have been reports from antiquity I read in my channel from a book from 2,000 years ago that covered many extreme odd events, and it included lightning happening out of nowhere with no clouds. Many reports. So that's from ancient Rome. That's one thing. Another thing I know from Aboriginal stories in South America, there's an indigenous group. I think the book is called Women in the Forest. They talk about an inversion where things go upside down. All of a sudden, things get completely turned around from time to time. So that story is out there. And then we know, I guess, not sure you guys know of the channel Stellium 7.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's Mike.
I don't. Stadium 7?
Stellium. Stellium. His name is Mike. Okay. He's Flat Earth Man's best friend, and he lives over there in Spain. Yeah, Spain.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and what he found is that there's a mountain near where he lives. Looks like a mountain, but he has dozens of coincidences, relationships between that mountain being a being that has been petrified, and there's a lot of evidence supporting this kind of thing. There's many sides to it, so it is odd, and that would be a gigantic being. This thing was 1 kilometer high.
Oh, a Titan. Yeah. Well, if you guys check out Roger at Mud Fossil University, have you ever seen this?
Yep.
He had DNA testing done on these rocks, and there's DNA in these
human
rocks.
DNA. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And he shows you that these are tissues with blood, and it is unbelievable. It does appear that, and you can see a lot of these rock structures. It's an elephant. You can see what it is. God, imagine, if everything was that big.
Yeah, that's how it ties into the grand solar minimums. When we go through these, it pretty much wipes everything out, and we have to start again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that brings in now creation, the chicken or the egg. You're like, where do we all just manifest out of, the chicken or the egg? You can't have a kid without a fetus, but you can't. So where does all this life pop back up again?
Well, what I was saying with the buildings that we're looking, if you're looking at the mud flood and all these, the buildings back then, they all had bigger doors, bigger windows, bigger everything. And it all points towards that before the last reset, we were bigger. And the reset before that, we were bigger again. And then you go back to the giants and to the titans, and everything got bigger. And it's as if every time we have a reset, we lose a bit of pressure in this construct that we live in.
And oxygen content goes down as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everything gets smaller.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. So it's bizarre as it sounds when you really look into this subject. It does look like everybody was huge back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what you guys get into the dinosaur. Eric Dubay had his dinosaurs aren't real and all that. But what I think is that some, T-Rex and Brontosaurus, that's probably bogus. But really, if you can have a woolly mammoth, why couldn't Triceratops just be a big ancient rhino? Do you see what I mean?
Possible. Yeah.
Maybe some of the dinosaurs are there, and then because they had to sensationalize it, they go, well, now we need T-Rex. So they make up a bunch of the crap, but maybe there were giant armadillos and rhinos and
maybe there was,
whatever.
But the thing is, the only bones that they actually have found is like mammoth and Triceratops, which is a big rhino, as you said. All of these other ones, these with feathers and fins and all this. That's rubbish.
Well, look at the whales. They're huge. Like a blue whale is giant. It's still here. And if they do find these bones, they're in the Smithsonian. You'll never see it.
Yeah, even the guys looking at what do you call them?
Archaeologists.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
we know of a number of these animals, very massive bears, bigger bears and bigger kangaroos that started disappearing when humans supposedly moved in the mainstream narrative to Australia. So that's around 40,000 years ago in their narrative. After, I think that's even before the end of the Ice Age, of course, before the end of the Ice Age. So supposedly when the humans got there, they were all much more fauna in Australia. That's one of the stories they tell, but supposedly that's all coming from a fossil record, but that's the kind of stuff that you have to dig to compare.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is field actually. I wanted to ask you this actually. They say that it started out with prokaryotes and eukaryotes, right? And then somehow they morphed into larger things and turned into fish and then crawled on the land. That's the mainstream narrative. But there are still prokaryotes and eukaryotes today that are exactly the same as they claim were 2 billion years ago. Why have they not evolved? Right?
Exactly.
Right.
How could they still be here if we all came from there?
It's exactly the same as missing link. You will never find the missing link. You'll never find a fish with small legs on it.
It's like if we evolved from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys, right? It's the same kind of question.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say it's a common ancestor and so on, but what you do find for sure is a history of many frauds for trying to find a missing link. For sure. Yep.
Well, it's also in their timeline. These species just pop up. There's like billions of years of no evolution, and then there's dinosaurs. And you're like, what? They're their whole chart does like that. Then where are the Miocene apes? They said, there were 12 species of Miocene apes. Where are they? If we came from them, wouldn't they